I would take this honor to invite Mr. Muhammed Trawally to lead us in the Muslim prayers before we go into the activity program. Mr. Muhammad, if you're with us, kindly lead us in the Muslim prayer. The Appeal of Sustainable Peace is a masterpiece that is written to celebrate and also to advocate for a society that is pillared on peace and acceptance of diversity. At a time when we are edging towards an election, it is crucial that this particular launching comes at a very pivotal time that would yet remind us of the importance of peace in maintaining national security and also respecting our cultural diversity and religious differences. It is in this light that we welcome you today to this festive occasion and do hope that you will live not just as an attendee of a book launch, but will leave this hall inspired. You will leave this hall armored with the message of peace as security personnel, as civilians, as senior government officials, and as patriots who would anchor their engagements in the fight and advocacy for sustainable peace. Muhammad has invested not just time, not just energy, not just resources, but a level of vigor and value to overcome all challenges that affected or could have impeded this particular draft. And today, marking this book is not just a day to celebrate, but again to remember the call that national youths in this country are also devoted to sustainable peace and national development. And it is in this light that we celebrate your accomplishment and do hope that we have a very successful launching of this activity.
My name is Hadid Ramen, a member of Team NK Academy. I am here to recite a poem entitled The World Peace. Here it goes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let me speak in the ears of the world. Hello world. Tell me what is more beautiful, more bountiful than the peace. Please give peace a chance, and we will surely shine like the stars sparkling and twinkling all day long. Have all diamond and gold in life, and without peace your life is worthless. How can there be a peace where you are putting the laws in your own hand? How can there be a peace where there is corruption, tribalism, racism? Mbadi, konante yama nyanda malu tema. Nyo yele boma nyanda malu tema. Nyo korte manyanda malu tema. Si fatamfanso manyanda malu tema. Bankudi ya kano nyantanda malu tema. Kanyo ya kanyo sewandi. Kanyo konata diya fanna banko sadia. Fanna banko sayurwa fakairo sasabati. Hello world, are you not seeing? They are kidnapping the children, raping the young girls. Innocent blood are flowing everywhere in the world. Please give peace a chance to live. Yes, what is wrong and that's a fact. But no stone throwing, no ties burning, no life lost. If we must change, then let us change our heart and give peace a chance. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And then that call of peace is a good stepping stone for us to now reflect on the journey that Muhammad has taken before this day. And it is in this light that I will now call on Marietu, the head of the organizing committee, to deliver the welcoming statement on behalf of the entire organizing committee of this festive occasion.
Distinguished guests, esteemed dignitaries, partners, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizing committee, it is my singular honor and privilege to welcome you all this evening to the grand launching of Pulse of Sustainable Peace here at the prestigious Baba Hotel. Tonight, we gather not merely to unveil a book, but to celebrate an idea that peace is both the highest aspiration of humanity and the most urgent task of our time. This work reflects the sacrifice of those who came before us, the vision of those who guide us, the dream of those who are still fighting for peace, and the collective hope we all share for a more just and harmonious society. Allow me at this dignified moment to honor the memory of the two late sons of our Republic, the late Vice President, His Excellency Aliou Badara Diouf, and the late Inspector General of Police, Mamour Diop. Their service to our nation was marked by sacrifice, integrity, and deep love for our country. It is in this honor and inspired by their unwavering commitment to peace that this launch takes on even greater meaning. Amazing guests, your presence here today is a testament to your commitment, not only to the author and his remarkable achievement, but to the noble cause of peace itself. It is a gesture of solidarity that reminds us that peace cannot be the burden of one person alone, but rather a shared responsibility of all. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reflect on some of our neighboring countries and even far beyond, we are reminded that peace is not just a dream, but a necessity for well-being of individuals and community. It is a necessity for national development, social justice, and human rights. Pulse of Sustainable Peace is a testament to the power of peace building and its importance. And I want to encourage each and every one of you today, before leaving, to grab a material from this hall. Before I conclude, I would like to take a moment to congratulate the mastermind behind today's remarkable event, a brother, a friend, and a shining light to many. Our friendship has been a profound reminder that true safety and strength do not come from material security, but from having some genuine person by your side who can transform every challenge into an opportunity and every negative into a positive. As the event director, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, our sponsors, our supporters, and every individual who has made this evening possible.
I can confess and also testify to the amount of energy she has also invested to the success of this event. In numerous occasions, I've witnessed him and Muhammad and how they would make sure that they spend their entire day making engagements with stakeholders towards this success. As he rightly says, peace is not just a dream. It is a reality that we all ought to live within our society. For it begins from you as an individual before it transcends to our various communities and our country at large.
I'm here to recite a poem entitled Peace. I stand with a flag. People said it colors yet bright, brighter than the darkness of hate that leads to pain, softer than the breath of true innocent soul. O land of the smiling cook so bright, where the evil meets the morning light, we raise our voices clear and strong, from flip past to city streets. In a tyrant world, starting stands, making peace and strengthening war. A God with a star is the messenger of peace. I thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome on stage a man that have gotten years of experience in peacekeeping missions, gained a lot of insights in policy and policy making, an individual who have not just advocated for peace, but have always been there to promote this agenda. Would you mind to welcome on stage the Director of Immigration, Mr. Ibrahim Mboub, to join us on this particular stage.
Students, Gambians, and everyone, media, thank you very much. I am here today not by mistake, and for so you can see immigration as the MC simply, we stand with youth empowerment, gender, and human rights. Our department also strives forward in the governance structure, and we are able to recognize our space. One of the most important points to make across here is I spent about 10 years in a peacekeeping zone, and I wish to share with you what I understand with the word peace. It is evident that we gather here for peace. We can see it and we can feel it. What is peace? It is also evident that when getting to be here, wherever we come from, we have seen things along the way that are non-peaceful. I meant to say we have hailed from homes with non-peaceful effects, seen things non-peaceful, and are going back from here to meet the same effects of peace and non-peaceful acts. One should be wondering, what is peaceful and non-peaceful? How do we nurture peace? And how can we sustain peace in ourselves, homes, gatherings, communities, environment, society, towns, institutions, and the country at large? When, how, why, what, who, and how do we exert peace? Big question. Peace is not the absence of war as it relates to rule of law. Peace is not the absence of a fight, disagreement, or violence. It has gone beyond that. For example, we do hear peace and security, peace and the environment, peace and wildlife, peace and love, peace and prosperity, peace and property, peace and culture, peace and tradition, peace and unity, peace and norms. Is silence an exert of peace? So many questions can be asked about peace, and we can contextualize it in any form. However, peace can be defined in many contexts so long it relates to any subject. It can also mean inner calm and serenity, harmony and coexistence among nations, state of tranquility and calm, happy family, or school with the most socialized events. There are other genesis of this particular word. When we fight fire, we say firefighter. But when we are looking out for peace, to fight for peace, there is only one word I know, and that is the peacekeeper. The United Nations defines peace as a state of tranquility, harmony, and mutual understanding among nations, groups and individuals characterized by absence of violence, conflict, and war, and the presence of justice, tolerance, and mutual respect. This is promoted through conflict prevention, peacekeeping and peace building, human rights promotion, sustainable development, international cooperation with vision reflected in its charter to maintain international peace and security, maintain international peace and security to develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation in solving problems. This is also guided by principles of sovereignty, non-interference, self-determination, human rights, and international law. This is why we have peacekeeping missions to create stable and secure environment and rule of law. There are different types of peacekeeping. Traditional peacekeeping, monitoring of ceasefires and peace agreements. Multidimensional peacekeeping involves security, governance, and humanitarian assistance. Peace enforcement, using force to restore peace in conflict zones, and peace consolidation, which strengthens institutions. And I want us to just take note of this. Strengthen institutions such as judiciary, security forces, and electoral commissions to ensure they are fair, transparent, judicious, and accountable to its citizens. That impacts on institutional reform, economic development, social cohesion, and security sector reform. We do not call for a divided nation, but we all have a responsibility, in particular for us, the men in uniform. In another context, Essentials of humanitarian practice has also taught me to say, it's not peaceful to be walking by a tree and just raise your hands to pluck its leaves for just because you are moving under a tree, which unconsciously you think it's just a tree. Why? Because you're holding a cutlass so you can just swipe a tree trunk. It cries not blood, but rubber, if it's a rubber tree. To me, that's not peaceful. As a member of Red Cross, let's protect our available resources, such as forests, wildlife, and ecosystems. Actions without tangible reasons are non peaceful, especially when we feel it's just a thing. Normally we say, lidu dara, nga gis garab bi mu ngi taxaw soxlu lo ci dara dog just a leaf. What sense does it make? Is it peaceful? So it's not just us, but we should look around us. It's not good to litter where it's not designated. It's not peaceful. Some of these are already in the regulations of policing and are misdemeanor offenses. It's just important for us to go beyond what we think is compliance to ethics and good manners. When we go to Europe today, we think they're cleaner than us. It's because we are not able to embrace peace and understand what the word peace entails beyond what we know, but just by definition. Oh, I went to visit Fatou in Senegal, and I tasted their cashew, so sweet. I decided to bring to the Gambia to plant it. Is it peaceful? That's a phytosanitary offense. There are laws and regulations governing actions that we take to carry out. What am I trying to say? When you are in the Gambia, you go to Guinea-Bissau, just take a plant, you come back here. You have no idea that the Gambia is a sovereignty. We are guided by regulations. That cashew seed you just take from somebody's country to bring into the Gambia without going through the health checks, without declaring it, that note that you keep in your bag is an offense. It's not peaceful. And I think these are all things that we should be able to understand peace and what peace entails. So Lulu, we will say, Tonya, and we always hear those Nineka Diware to tell you what tone is. Wala bog ñuy jigalu always. Every home, every day, ñu ngi tooñ ñu ngi jigalu. And I think we should go beyond this to understand. But there are other layers. In institutions, we call it breach of code of conduct. At state level, breach of the law, and that's the offense. Peace cannot be attained if you are not able to understand well the content and metaphorical context of the Pearls of Sustainable Peace by Muhammed Trawally, a young Gambian whose passion and recon for peace is recorded with distinction by international institutions and peace advocates. He is able to contextualize peace in our very domestic structure, chaptered in 4 areas. I've read the book to the end, and I've mapped out the Musukuta stage, named after a female, the Garaba stage, Mahatma stage, and the Lisa stage. I wonder why 2 reflections of a feminine name we know in the Gambia, but that doesn't mean Lisa or Musukuta has to be only for female. That's just our understanding, and by norms and tradition and culture. The world has grown beyond that. Let's see what the Musukuta state entails. The Pearls of Sustainable Peace illustrates and describes acts of peace as a strong foundation of education from early child development, parentage, and moral discipline, guided by values, beliefs, customs, and culture. This stage allows strong parentage and discipline inculcated in the early days of a child to recognize good and bad acts of family values, actions considered to be normal in your faith, courage, and growth, Mostly, ethics and ethical behavior to our morning greetings, the way we greet our parents, dress code and manners, responsibility and what we utter, our utterances to each other at what level age comes in. These are not just mere indoctrination into us as children, but values, growth, character, discipline, and love. These structures exist except for the transforming cultures today. It's time to remember when we used to go to Dara, when we were told, Demansangu, the circumcision grand style indoctrination for morality in society, discipline in approach to elders, self-intuition and matriculation to react to occurrences. When things happen, sometimes I understand some people say, yes, when emergencies happen, people just jump to conclusions. Or now people post anything on TikTok or whatsoever, creating their own content, yet people will comment as if they're the jurists. I think we should be very exemplary as Gambians to understand beyond context before you are swept into what you don't know, to make unnecessary comments about individuals whose life no matter to you. This is the responsibility of a whole community, society, and as an individual or group. Tailored by age, we all went through good upbringing. When women talk, it's women that have spoken. When men spoke, at the Bantaba, it's their voice, and no such strong and elegant young man or woman, stranger, refutes what the elders say. I do remember, we all remember when social structures of today's modern arbitrary structures were the responsibility of the family heads before. Al-Kalulu, chiefs, seikhs, imam, and common outsider in the village. Peace was a monarch. The Musukuta state is given a feminine name as it applies to our society. What I made of it is that mothers have a great role in early child development, nurturing, nursing, discipline, and voice. As we are ready for motherhood, then to take responsibility as mothers. I think we should be careful before you invite a child into this world. Understand yourself in all balances, than to just create that human through the help of God, and we have nothing, but just to send them to normally the daras that normally also look for aid in other countries at the mercy of what? The support of the donors. That's not the reason we have a child. Today, there are enough reasons that we should try to map ourselves within the families and structures that we hail from, because this is what is dividing our country. Attitude is another question. Who is not from home? If you are a Gambian and you hail from here, you will not nurture unpeaceful acts, non-peaceful acts, because why? You don't want to break your home. So normally, I'm not saying it is coming from strangers, but we have a lot of people that now enter the country. A lot of things are changing. Manners and attributes. And of course, migration, even in America, brings so much development and change. But can't we stick to who we are? Let's continue. Fighting in the household, husband and wife, fury of languages, foul words, storming, ghettos around the home. Come, let's go watch war films. Who is there to make us watch, hear, see, and do what is preferred for our age? Peace at home becomes a moral art and science. Peace is explained. I think Muhammad has done a good thing. And of course, with time, we'll be able to understand this book. When we sit at home, we say every kind of word disregarding that child. That will again take those words as normal language. Is it fair? When we quarrel at night, every kind of drama, the children in the house will also copy the life you live as a father or mother. Where are our Islamic scholars? Are we even listening to TV or television or radio? Because now we have modern technology. Transforming cultures are taking us away from our heritage. It's not peaceful. The Garaba stage. We do talk about school, and I'm going to school, but for what? The school has been explained but qualified. Attending school in the Garaba stage is described as an institution and a learning environment outside the home that influence the notion, action, and decisiveness of a young aspiring to be responsible adults. This stage qualifies that schooling and education are different. Did we even know that? Whereas education means intelligence and good character and morals, school without good character and moral decency makes you schooled. Jangana de. Why you Jangana de. When the one and a simon le jangana. Some people, they have gone to their degree level. Sometimes you hear teachers say, kid, he just passed through the school. And now we are receiving a lot of fake results because of technology. Where are we going to? And these are the schools that we are talking about. Is it peaceful? What kind of society are we trying to now groom for the future of this country? Let's get to this book and understand much what the author is saying. Yes, you are schooled, but you are not educated. I am saying that the educated are using their intelligence into good utilitarian manners, whilst the schooled are morally and character inclined. The criminal is very intelligent, but is not educated. If you are educated in any field of study, you will use the knowledge for the good of mankind. Now tell me, which study, which field, which part of the world are we studying to be a thief? I think we should be able to ask this question. The minister is here seated, basic and secondary education. Is there any module that is telling you how to be a criminal? Is there any module in class that tells you how to steal, how to rob a bank, how to kill? No, I don't think. So the school should not be a ground where today we are talking of, okay, arms in school, weapons with students. Is it peaceful? Let's think about it. Meaningful education in society warrants us to live in peace and observe good deeds. Think positive and consult with family, teachers, and elders in society. This stage has so much for us to be better people than society. And today, teachings outside moral homes depicts. Most kids will believe teachers than parents. Then teachers do have a lot to do. These structures are in our schools, unless family heads and teachers are not in consultation. Yet we have the Parents Teachers Association. Students, I beg you all to follow due diligence. Your dwelling, your action, your environment, and leisure time should be peaceful, and you need not stress. Family heads, mothers, fathers, guardians should not expose you to fit their economic and financial gains, but to educate you. Sometimes a child is subleased to us, but because she has to go and sell ice, and I don't know what that means, when she becomes vulnerable to the society today, how many of us would send someone and guide you properly, that this is what you should do and not? I think there is another stage, the Mahatma stage. It's important we do discuss about this. The book has a lot to discuss, and it relates to our society. The Mahatma stage is apparent that from our homes and schools, we find ourselves in institutions. These institutions cover a larger extent to be workplaces. We must understand that institutions are another setting with concept of operations, standard operating procedures, and bounded with code of conduct and ethics and ethical standard behavior. Core values such as professionalism, respect for diversity, and integrity. Those are the drivers of peace. Workplaces such as courts, police stations, companies, agencies, hospitals, and etc. are guardians of peace. For they are guided by processes, procedures, norms. It embodies governance through institutional policies, regulations, and general orders to save institutions and its staff at workplace. Any workplace you are is guided by those strict disciplinary measures from home and from the school. But today, we're talking of corruption, we're blaming government, but as an individual, how much peaceful are you in this line, in this process, in this industry? Therefore, peace is registered when institutions reckon its existing policies and regulations and its benchmark enveloped with justice and fairness for all. Because he's an ASP, because I don't like him, because he has sterling qualities and he's polite, and I don't possess those qualities, when it is my own fault to be looked aback. Now, I have to just find a way of eradicating him. Now we go to those mythical signs of our heredity, thinking that you are going to a marabout to depose somebody of a position. Doesn't that marabout go to apply for visa? Why not all marabouts are in America right now? So you allow somebody to high-brain you, put you into a shrine and accord that keeps your thinking to keep them surviving. Whatever you earn, you just go and deposit. Luring you to explain your problem when, of course, yes, if you believe in anything, it works for you. But you don't know the fate of another. I think it's time to find peace with ourselves. Believe in what's your qualities and character, and good character will never fail you. In the same vein, there are institutions that are checkers or otherwise provide instruments and or tools for breeding peace and fight non-peaceful arena. And I will say, those institutions serve to promote peaceful coexistence among groups of institutions, individuals, and or individuals against institutions. It is imperative to create awareness and training at workplaces to consolidate peace, nurture peace, and propagate peace. Programs such as professional leadership trainings are essential for staff, refresher gatherings, and staff parties to help to break a relax and rest. I must say that at this, I have an example of a proprietor, Lugis. The proprietor jokes and plays with every staff. I went there and what I saw was amazing. If you like, try go to Lugis and see how this gentleman and all his staff, they will not hide. Good leadership does not mean that your staff has to see you and start running. Oh, I think what I saw at Lugis was amazing. Gambians who work with that gentle office, that restaurant can tell you and find out. Define peace at workplace is horrible. And I must say, for us to be in uniform, the cadre provides day-to-day check on discipline and the disciplinary actions on defaulters. Sometimes schools like AMTID were known for instilling discipline in the highest levels. Can't we have more of AMTID high schools? Let's think about it. Everyone who passed through AMTID, you still remember. And I think, well, it's now what we should be talking about. I think there is a lot for us to discuss. Because our future, our country, those development aspirations lies in our hands. The leaser stage and the last stage is a public sphere where transforming cultures are evident. Time is up, but I need to go ahead with this. Tradition, culture, and conventional gatherings, marketplaces, football fields, parks and ceremonies, traffic and restaurants, etc. are breeding grounds for peace. A flashback to then Bantaba Kacha, night storytelling, circumcision booth sites, mosques, churches and sermons, radio and TV. They provide an ideal person with head cool to orderliness, humanity and moral lessons, peaceful for a decent living. However, the same places now incubate indecency due to transforming cultures, thus effect of science and technology, climate change, migration, man-made innovations, and etc. Culture and tradition, including for arts and media, were then so defined and aligned to peace and preventive articulations. Here we are reminded with symbols and historical remains, resolutions and agenda for peace by the highest institutions of the world and peace defenders. Peace today is normative by driving with friends in a Hummer truck with mega sound drums of Usher on highways, stunting vehicles at traffic roundabouts to amaze passers-by. Stay in your own room in a hostel and shout out for real, amazing grace. Peace today is contextual and morally driven by the likes of taste, fashion, and use of illicit drugs to many and all in the senses in forms and kinds, hairstyles, and freak out. Yes, it's beautiful, but the means justifies the ends. How productive is our actions when we work for the money? The energy wasted, how sustainable and how strategic, how economic, how resilient, how much funding is generated to made before one can be peaceful or maintain peace. Peace in the public sphere is that same peace that is consensual, ethical, and measured right with the right manners and application, secured or endured in the right time in any given situation. From this point, we should be accountable to our actions as personal security is personal responsibility. So is peace. Peace should be embraced, and that is what Lamin is talking about in the book. Thank you very much.
Now, I would want to take this opportunity to invite another statesman, an individual who has not just inspired young people in this country, but if you have read Gambian history, you look at how Africa has fought for emancipation, coming down to Gambia and its fight for independence, knowing that when that baton was handed over by Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara and the rest of our nationalists, someone and some people had to also take over that baton and do not just work towards national development, but serve as a voice, serve as a channel that people can use to listen to, and then promote national security and peace. This individual has also, over the past decades, stood not just to serve Gambians, but then to represent the true image of what our country represents. In his capacity at the National Assembly as a parliamentarian, he served as another voice that does not just speak on what interests him, but the interests of our collective society. As he also served as the party leader and former secretary of the PDOIS, he has also not just empowered young people, but gave us hope that even in times of dictatorship, that when we are suppressed and oppressed by those who lead us, we can resist the temptations and still stand firm to maintain our image and our integrity. And it is in this light that I want you to welcome on stage Honorable Halifa Sallah to kindly take us through building the foundations, institutional frameworks for sustaining peace. Honorable, we thank you for your service and we look forward to be inspired again.
The might of the body, the will, all must be summoned, energized, and put in the service of country and people before you can have peace. The engine of peace is service. Service is the engine of peace. We must serve and we must be served. That's what Mr. Trawally is emphasizing. But the driving force of peace is the will. If you want to transform a human being into a slave, you must break his will. You must break the will of the donkey so that you can ride on its back. You must break the will of someone to be able to oppress and suppress the person. That's why the military strategists called Clausewitz said that war is the imposition of will, your will, on your adversary. If you cannot impose your will on your adversary, you cannot be victorious. So that is why it is very significant for us to understand that peace is a universal phenomenon that we must look at from very specific perspective to understand it and to be able to know what it demands of us to contribute to it. There is this philosopher called Socrates. He was tried and eventually convicted and sentenced to drink hemlock, which is a poison, as a death penalty. He said, there are many means to be able to escape danger if you will say anything and do anything. But he said the difficult thing is not to escape death, but to escape depravity. According to him, it runs faster than death. And because he is old, he will be caught by death. But his judges will be caught by wickedness. And he accepted his sentence that he'll go to death, but his judges will be sentenced to wickedness. So as you perpetrate injustice against another person, you're just exercising power, which is transient. The same thing with Lumumba. When he was being killed, he said, brutality, cruelty, torture will not make him beg for mercy. That he will die with his head unbowed in order to maintain sacred principles. I am showing the willpower of human beings that have enabled us to change society in order to move to the type of society where we say the will and consent of the citizens will determine their manner of government. So we must unite our willpower, all of us, free it in order to build a society that we all own before we can have peace. That is why the League of Nations, after the First World War, saw the brutalities that occurred. Then they agreed that there must be international cooperation so that they will develop certain fundamental principles that will guide them. And they will all agree never to resort to war. But now they must develop certain principles of open society, open relation, just relation among nations. And then to prepare conventions that all of them will respect. So we are seeing the legislative dimension of peace. We are seeing cooperation, the diplomatic dimension of peace. But we are also seeing the willingness, the willingness to have peace. The same thing with the United Nations. When it was coming into being, what they said, they want to save succeeding generation from the suffering that took place after the world wars, 2 world wars. And they agreed that they must now have faith in human beings, in their human rights, in the equality of men and women, of human beings, of nations, small or big. and they must cooperate to have international laws that all of them will respect to have peace in the world. I'll be brief. I am saying that we have ideals of laws, ideals of values, ideals of what is peace. But those ideals will never become reality until we build the type of societies that can guarantee peace. That is the challenge. The type of societies that can guarantee peace must fundamentally emerge from what happened in world history. After the First World War, all the nations began to see that nations must not dominate each other. They must have the right to liberation. And therefore, they agreed that the colonial borders of all countries will now serve as the borders of independent nations in the world. And all of them should become part of the United Nations, and they should cooperate to have world peace. But in terms of international aspect of peace, what they created was a Security Council, now with 15 members, 5 permanent members. But those 5 permanent members can have veto powers. Russia is engaged in war in Ukraine, but if you want to take Russia to the United Nations, it will veto whatever the United Nations Security Council does. The same thing with the United States. They will veto. So they have veto powers. So if we are going to promote international peace, that structure must be examined. Structure in such a way that if you are engaged in war, then you should not participate in decision-making that deals with what you are in. Those rules must be established at the level of the United Nations so that the nations that engage in war will have no moral authority to participate in decision-making. If we don't do that, the architecture of peace will still be fragile. And that is the situation in the world today. The architecture is fragile. We can talk a lot about peace, but you've seen what is happening in Gaza. In fact, because I don't have much time, I'll just give you an example where, because of the war in Ukraine and Russia, Germany recently, I was reading, was planning, their health sector was planning how many people will be injured a day if they were engaged in war with Russia. And they say 1,000 people. So they are now building means of evacuating those people. So those people are preparing for war, not peace. They're envisaging war, not peace. So we cannot sit here and talk about abstract concepts of peace. The world is in danger because we do not have a leadership that is committed to peace. And look at Sudan, the fragmentation of the continent. And it is increasing. Coup d'etats are beginning to emerge because of fragile political systems. So peace is not a luxury. It's a matter of life and death. What Mr. Trawally is doing today is to start a conversation. It's the beginning of a conversation, national, continental, and global conversation. We can learn, and that's why the minister must take note, that we must teach people peace. That's what Mr. Trawally is saying. Education is about socialization. It's helping to nurture values. It's not only respecting laws, but just laws must be made and inculcated in human beings. Then they serve as our code of conduct. Code of international conduct for nations, code of conduct for families, code of conduct for countries, code of conduct for institutions, We need code of conduct everywhere. But as he has rightly said, peace must start with education. It has a knowledge base. So fundamentally, the family is the starting point of education. So if you have educated family members, not education being able to read and write, is being cultured to have values, to know what enhances the development of society. And you inculcate those values in those young people as they grow. So the family has a role to play. But the school is what we call para-parental institution. And the teacher is a para-parent. It's a parent that adds to the value of the family. So the lesson you are learning in the home should be the lesson you are learning in the school. And it goes to feed the larger society, the peer group, and ultimately everywhere we go. So in short, I am commending Mr. Trawally for starting what we often see as very either academic or idealistic. The society that we live in, as long as it's not just poverty, know that there will always be frictions in the homes, frictions in the streets, frictions everywhere. But how do we contain it? Is where Mr. Trawally is emphasizing that we must educate, educate, and educate. And I must recommend that we should also have a peace and reconciliation commission. Because you've had the crisis everywhere. So the ripples are clear. We can ignore them at our own peril. Human rights commissions cannot address those issues. So you need a peace and reconciliation commission where people can approach. If you have land issues, you go there. They start looking at it. So my conclusion is that we cannot address all the problems at the same time. But we can begin the process of addressing them. The first point of call is the education that he says we should start. To know our problem in the first place is have the solution. Thank you.
I wouldn't be wrong to define this man as a literature beast. I remember when I was going to school at a time when we read some of his books. He is among those that have exposed us to Gambian literature. And this man has not just been inking, but he had been putting knowledge just in papers, but in generations yet to come. And it is in this particular spirit that we recognize not just his literature prowess, but then his accomplishment in Gambian literature to be able to deservingly review The Pearls of Sustainable Peace by Muhammed Almin Trawally. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome on stage the reviewer of The Pearls of Sustainable Peace, Mr. Michael Hamadi Seka, to join us on this video. Sir, it's an honor to have you here, and we look forward to a very interesting review of this interesting book. It is my first time meeting you, but I would say you've been inspiring.
Book will remain for generations to come to solve their problems, where it is said, as unchangeable as the past, something that is written would never change. Ladies and gentlemen, look at the book. Look at the book. Look at the cover of the book. What do you see? The whole universe held by some hands, some arms prostrating upward. That tells you the cover itself, teaches you a volume about the book. That the whole world can be under our control, provided we work together. Look at the rainbow lines. It tells us a lot. And what you have there, pearls of sustainable peace. When I got the book, my mind struck the biblical adage, what are pearls to peace? But that's a different adage here. the interpretation is different. Look at the bulb, the back of the book, a picture of a handsome young man striving to solve the whole universe problem, that is peace issue. And I was very much entrapped when I look at the title itself. My mind went to Muhammad Gandhi, who says, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that defenses of peace must be constructed. Not at the battlefields, not the bomb cells, not the tornadoes, but in the minds of the men. Because it's in the minds of men war is constructed, so the defense should be constructed in the minds of the men. That Uncle Khalifa taught about the mind, which is very key. If you look at page 10, go to page 10, ladies and gentlemen, but I will not tell you all. The best thing is to buy a book. Buy a book. No matter what speakers who stand here today, they cannot exhaust this book. As it is said, it is just like the work of a sculpture, depending the angle that you stand. But ladies and gentlemen, this book is very rich. I was very happy when I look at page 10. The author is very grateful, and gratitude is so important. There is no intellectual dishonesty. The author categorically mentioned very important people who played a very important role in his life. Remarkably, he mentioned Chano Amarpali, which is not a surprise to me. It's very important. He contributes, encourages all Gambian authors. And the author did not mince his words without thanking Chano Amarpali. Then you go to page 12. He is with the view that wars can be resolved without going to war, without any violation of human rights. An example he has taken is between India and China, when there was a border crisis. They did not go to war. What they did was they resolved it through diplomacy. And that's what Muhammad Gandhi preached. And Muhammad Gandhi believed in what we call Satya Grataha. That is, in resolving issues, there has to be non-violence. And this is a lesson not only to the world, but even others. If you look at page 15 again, I was very happy when I saw the author talking about the mother being the first teacher. And the mother plays an important role. Children are seen as what we call tabula rasa. What is a tabula rasa? An empty slate that is inscribed into. So the mother plays a very important role. So what the child learns in the home is what is expected to transmit. I am not very good at that area, and I dare not go there because you have an expert here, a sociologist. But I know there are three types of socialization: the vertical, the horizontal, and the optimum type of socialization. The optimum type of socialization is the one in the prisons. That's why prisons should be rehabilitating. They should be changing, building the character of people caught to give them a second chance in life. But prisons must not be meant to distort people, to bully them, to punish them. The vertical socialization is at the home, where instructions come from the top and then filters down bottom. And the horizontal socialization, which is broader, is what happens in the schools. So that's what Trawally captured. But Trawally did not mince his word. He did not hesitate. When you look at page 22, when he talked about trajectory. What is trajectory? You see, sometimes we must not follow a rigid way. in bringing up our children. We must give children options. This is all building peace. There are times our children are not go to war against themselves, their own beliefs, their own thoughts. So the trajectory way of bringing up children is what the author is trying to communicate to parents. Let them not be very rigid. Let them make it very flexible, so that the child would not be robbed of his rights. Page 34, as there's an adage on the cover, if you look at the book, you look at a mirror, it tells you to look at yourself first. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a proverb by Muji Watongo. He said, don't point at people when the very clock under your eye, you cannot see it. So peace is the business of everybody. In maintaining peace, everybody has to contribute his ideas, knowledge, and any other thing. In page 50, Trawally spoke about space, which I quite concur with him. Of all the European explorers and sociologists, there's an author called Peter Brook. He spoke about the open space. The open space is very important. In those days, Africa was not licensed. So after the harvest is where people come together and the very soldiers are celebrated. In those days, nobody pays. You have the open space. But space is very important. Why did the South African people during the time of apartheid condemn people coming together? Because the more you come together, the more powerful you become. That's what we call the connivium. You connive together. You exchange ideas. So space is very important in discussing issues. Your own room is a space. This hall today is a space. Whatever we discuss here, we can be sharing ideas. Why do we go to prayers on Friday? Why do we go to church on Sunday? But we believe that the more you come together and pray to God, the more He answers our prayers. So Mr. Trawally emphasized the space. But in page 53 again, Mr. Trawally looked at the school. You know, you have three types of violence. You have the physical violence, the structural violence, and the symbolic violence. What is the symbolic violence? When you divorce yourself from the learner. Like a few days ago, when the results were published, most teachers will say, oh, Ibrahima, you disappointed me. You did not perform well. When you are the very teacher who taught Ibrahima. You are not divorcing yourself from Ibrahima. That's what we call the symbolic violence. And you have the structural violence, where everything comes from top. What Paulo calls the macrophile and the biophile. What is the macrophile? When people are reduced to mere objects, that's the objectification. Where we, the custodians of knowledge, think that these people are empty. And the biophile consists life, where people are seen as human beings. Whereby we no longer call classroom control, but classroom management. Because if you control a class, you are controlling creativity. And if you control creativity, you are controlling teaching and learning. So that's why it's called now classroom management and not classroom control. So the school, what the children are taught in the school, we should be very careful with what we teach the children. We must not implant that tribalism into the children. Sometimes our approaches towards the national languages, they are good to nationalize. When we say, who is a Mandinka, go to Mandinka class. Who is a Wolof, go to Wolof classes. Who is a Jola, go to Jola classes. Let the children choose the language they want to learn. Let's put in their mind. So the school can be worse than the military camp, whereby the children would be cut off from their means of production, their jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Director of Immigration spoke about that. We must differentiate between education and discipline. Education by Thomas Mann is defined as the supreme human gift to a unique individual that helps him to become what he has in him to become. So you must prepare the child according to what is in him. But when you come to discipline, you are making the child to become what he is not supposed to become. So all these are barriers of maintaining sustainable peace. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to page 61, the author talks about institutions. Yes, we must these institutions put up must maintain peace. The likes of Jean Jacques Rousseau, Auguste Comte, Karl Marx, Herbert Spencer, and name them. It took them a number of years to define what is sociology. How can we put up societies so that they can live in freedom? The likes of Immanuel Kant say, though we can live peacefully, we can live harmoniously, but what about the basic human right of an individual if it is undermined? That is freedom. Freedom is very key. We cannot have peace without equity in resources, economic equity, social equity, political equity. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been brought up in a society where we shy even to discuss about politics. But Aristotle, the master and the one who knows, says, everybody is a political beast. You put up an issue about politics, something that affects our life, something that undermines our peace. You are silent. Remove that article from here. Here is not a forum for politics. But everybody is a political beast. What may not be proper is partisan politics. Don't use partisan politics in executing your duties. So Mr. Trawally left no stone unturned. But I'll be very unfair if I should reveal this secret. I know it's a very rich book. We are sitting on a gold mine. This book can send you to bed. This book, buy it. And please, those of our people in what we call linguistic exile. Who are those in linguistic exile? The book is written in English. Translate it for your grandfather, for your grandmother, for your aunt. They want to know the information in this book. But it affects them. Then, page 63, this gifted author talks about justice. Remember, Peter Tosh said, everybody talks about peace. But what do I talk about? Equal rights and justice. So there's a need for the separation of powers. As Al-Masako said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So in carrying out the social contract to avoid war, conflict, dissatisfaction and disgruntledness, it's good to maintain peace. As Uncle Halima said, those govern, the ones they are governing, give them their due rights. And then the future, he talks about the future. Ladies and gentlemen, as I told you, there are so many speakers. And you know, all along I was saying, I don't want Uncle Halima to speak before me. Well, I don't have anything to say. But I did not escape the trap still now. So to avoid others from not having something to say, as my honorable minister is here and my brother General Bari, ladies and gentlemen, please buy a copy of the book. Support Muhammed Trawally. He did not only write the books for the purpose of writing. He wrote the book to sell his ideas. And you have golden ideas in this book here. In fact, what makes the whole program successful is that people he dedicated the day to. Uncle Badajouf, we all know is a guru. I wish he were alive. He believes in this intellectualism. Likewise, Mr. Joe, who dedicated the whole of his life in serving the people. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
We now move on to the representative of the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Per Gomez, who should have been here with us but could not make it as a result of certain commitments. I now want to call Mr. Mukhtar Dawo, the Deputy Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Higher Education, to speak on the behalf of the Minister. Sir, you're highly welcome to mount the stage.
Honorable Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, my former boss and colleague, Professor Barry Hamadi, I hope I can ask also another colleague. We have a very good representation of the education sector. Honorable Sala, thank you for that inspiring and encouraging speech. The author, DG Wu, that was also very inspirational. You touched on every aspect of it. And the rest of the high table, forgive me for not calling you by name. I greet you all and our beautiful audience. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a profound honor for me, on behalf of the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, to deliver this statement at the launching of Pearls of Sustainable Peace, a remarkable work by our own compatriot, Muhammed Almin Trawally. This book is not merely a literary contribution. It is a living testimony, a celebration of values, of vision, and of virtues embodied by two distinguished sons of our nation. The late Vice President, His Excellency Ali Badraju, and the late Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Joe. Through their service and sacrifice, they left indelible footprints on the sands of our national journey, showing us that leadership anchored in peace, humility, and justice is the surest compass for a society aspiring to sustainable progress. The title itself, Pearls of Sustainable Peace, resonates deeply with our collective aspirations as Gambians and as Africans. A pearl, as we know, is formed over time through resilience, endurance, and patience. Qualities that both of these distinguished personalities exemplify. Peace, too, like a pearl, is never accidental. It is nurtured, cultivated, and sustained through conscious effort, education, and the embrace of shared values. As Nelson Mandela once reminded us, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. As a ministry, our mandate in higher education is not only to provide knowledge and skills, but also to cultivate character, nurture values, and inspire generations who see education as a tool for peace, progress, and nation building. So the lives of the late Vice President and the late IGP stand as luminous examples of what it means to be educated, not only in mind, but also in spirit. Indeed, the late Ali Barra was a lifelong educator, a mentor, a reformer, and a visionary who consistently reminded us that education must be relevant to the needs of society. He believed that peace and sustainable development begin in the classroom, where young minds seek to embrace responsibility, dialogue, and service. Similarly, the late Mahmoud Job demonstrated how peace is safeguarded daily through discipline, fairness, and the upholding of the rule of law. Both men remind us of the wisdom in the African proverb. Peace is costly, but it is worth the expense. And two, our faith traditions affirm this truth. In the Holy Quran, Allah tells us, Inna Allah la yukhayyiru biqawmin hatta yukhayyiru ma bi anfusihim. I think I need to go back to the data. Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. This is in chapter 13, verse 11, Surah Ar-Ra'd of the Quran. Likewise, in the Bible, we are reminded that blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Matthew 5, verse 9. These sacred teachings underline what both these noble leaders stood for, that peace begins within and radiates outward into just action for the common good. In celebrating this book, we are not only celebrating their lives, but also affirming a philosophy that knowledge is most powerful when it is used to serve humanity. This very philosophy is at the heart of the ministry's vision, creating a knowledge where learning is a force for peace, inclusion, and transformation. So let this lunch today serve as a call to action. To our scholars, let it inspire research and reflection on how peace can be institutionalized. To our youth, let it spark passion for responsible citizenship and constructive leadership. And to all Gambians, let it reaffirm our shared duty to nurture peace as the foundations upon which our future rests. On behalf of the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, I extend warm congratulations to Mr. Muhammed Almin Trawally for this timely and inspiring publication. May the pearl of sustainable peace find a place not only in ourselves, but also in our hearts and in our national conscience. In honoring the members of His Excellency Ali Badr Rajouf and Inspector General Mahmoud Job, we may also commit ourselves to advancing their legacies by building a Gambia where peace is not fragile, but firmly rooted in knowledge, firmly rooted in justice, and firmly rooted in opportunity. I thank you all for your kind attention.